Everyone, welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining. And today we are going to talk about how you can save huge amounts of time on your precast element planning. And this could be compared to other ways you're working today with Excel sheets, with other ERP systems similar to that. But we're not going to compare so much with others. We'd more like to show you guys, the solution in our impact software. Usually we show how the solution works on a few elements, try a little bit back and forth, talk a little bit about it. But today we're going to plan roughly 700 elements, 3 buildings across 2 different projects. And the rough agenda here will be, first we'll do some rough planning of some dates and a little bit crane placement and check. And I'll do that with you guys here, sitting here from the office. And then we'll jump to Thomas, switching the screen to show you that Thomas and I were actually working on the same projects on the same database at the same time from different placements. We're connected to the same database. And we're going to be working on multiple projects, multiple people, like I mentioned, multiple locations. And we're not just taking snippets, but we're working through all these elements, like I mentioned. And we're also going to be scanning and using QR tag with the actual mobile app. And that will be at the last 15 minutes, I think, of the webinar. For those of you specifically interested in that, you should give the webinar all of your attention in the last 15 minutes at least. But otherwise, I think it's great if all of you give us your attention for the whole webinar. I think you'll find this really interesting, of course. So basically, that's it. What is a little bit new in this webinar compared to some of the others we've done is that we're working on multiple projects. We're working simultaneously, meaning that when the screen goes to Thomas, I will continue rough planning more buildings and more floors that will pop up for Thomas to plan for the cast and stack during the webinar. And we're on a shared database as well. So we're both working multiple people, we're working from multiple locations, and we're doing these projects here. So basically, that's it. It's going to take roughly an hour, maybe 5 minutes more, maybe 5 minutes less. Let's see how many questions you guys have. And regarding the questions, if you look to the right of the screen of this GoToWebinar thing here, you'll find a questions box where you can write in the questions to Thomas and I. And I think what we'll do is we'll take a look at the questions after the webinar here and answer them. So we're not going to be showing everything. We're just going to be showing some snippets here. So let me just open our Impact Project Manager because that is where I'm going to start. And here we have a project that I want to start working with. So in this project here, let me just get up my screen, start messing a little bit with me.
A lot of things at the same time, Nikolai. So
too many screens for the webinar here.
So
let me get back to the model here. There we go. So basically here we see 2 buildings and a model browser to the left. And both buildings are blue. In this case, it's part of what we call the status of the project status and impact, and meaning these are already ready for production, but it could be different. It could be just a rough model. The model here, it comes from our impact design software. It could also come from Tekla. I know we have quite a few Tekla users joining our webinar today as well. So it might as well come from Tekla through our custom import tool also. But of course, we have a great modeling and detailing tool as well, Impact Design, which is what these models, of course, are based on and that are directly connected with the database. But without further ado, I'm just going to jump into a little bit of the planning. And I want to start to add some cranes. And we want to show a little bit how we can plan, and how it works in the software. So right now I'm just picking some cranes. I'm not spending too much time on describing exactly what I'm doing. I'm just adding 2 cranes here and I'm doing a check. Done. The load check is done. All the elements are green. If they weren't, I could move the cranes, I could add more cranes, I could add some different types of cranes. There's a lot of ways to do this. But we want to show you a whole lot of stuff today, how to do it. So basically, you can see here, it took me 5 seconds to place some cranes, to do some crane checks. If we want to control where the cranes are, we have a grid split in meters. And you can also split the cranes on where they're allowed to actually work on floors and on buildings and so on.
And also
So
with angle degrees, right? You
and
can also
degrees
have
as well.
a complete rate, yeah.
Exactly like Thomas says, if you have existing buildings already there, you can also work with that.
Yeah.
So that was actually the crane. So you can see it's very short, but we're going to show you guys a lot of stuff. So everything's going to be like a little bit short. But if you have some questions on some specific things, of course, just let us know. So basically what I want to do now, I know my cranes are okay. And now I want to do the erection planning. And we can use the cranes to check from where we want to start as well. I'm keeping my screen a little bit simple, so it's as easy as possible for you guys to follow. So I'm just turning off the cranes here. But of course, the rule of thumb is you want to start with the element furthest away from the crane. But I'm going to do that a little bit also, as I know the crane is here, of course. But basically where I want to start is in my building 1 and on my first floor and with my sandwich panels. And then basically I actually select, the order that I want to erect these elements in. And you can pick the elements one by one, like this, or you have some tools that you can also use to pick them with, that I'm doing here. So basically this is again the same as picking them one by one. And I'm adding them to my erection sequencing. I'm doing the same for the walls, but for the walls, I'll just pick them one by one. And I will go into my columns. And here, I'll use this selection as well. So you can see I'm using, a little bit different selection tools here also.
For those of you who are already users, Nikolai is pressing Shift and selecting, and in that sense, yeah, I'm just trying to be a little bit more technical instead when you are doing the job, so there is no problem. We can both go at the same time,
perfect.
Right? So yeah, so he's pressing Shift and Control, so he's selecting in a specific order the elements, right? And as you see, Nikolai has done that many times because he's pretty fast. Floor 1 is already finished.
So we took the whole floor, exactly. And then what I want to do is I want to select an erection division. We're not going to go too much through what erection division is, how to set up and so on, but basically it's the time that we have to erect the elements. How many elements can we erect, in one day and so on. So basically I'm putting my erection division on here. We had the first floor. And then I'm going to jump in and just to simulate this first floor for you guys, the erection sequence. Later on, we're going to jump in and simulate the erection dates. So this is very fast now. Let me just pause it a little bit. Sorry, guys. Make it a little bit slower so we can actually follow what's happening. So you can see this is the order that I selected the elements in. And that's where we want to be erecting up through the floors and going all the way through. After this one, I'm going to do some automatic dates for Thomas to use in his fine planning and then switch to Thomas. And while Thomas is then doing his fine planning, what I'll do is I'll continue the rough planning for this project here. So while he's doing the fine planning, he'll get some more elements to fine plan. So basically, this is how we do it. I just work my way through the building. As you can see, this was the first floor. I think this is about 80 elements. So it was quite quick to do it like that, of course. And I'm just double clicking my floor here. I'm jumping into my element IDs. And then I'm going up to the top because I want to sort by my erection sequence. I'm selecting them all. So you can see now the erection sequence is 1 and down all the way through to 80, something like this, which is what I just made. And now I want to plan when I need to erect this. So for the sake of this here, let's just say that I want to calculate erection dates. I have an initial date starting in Monday, the 2nd of August.
Oh yeah.
That's when we want to start erecting the project. So, and now I just moved the mouse cursor. So let me just get back to it here. Monday, the 2nd of August, increasing the date. So you can actually see elements going downwards. 2nd of August, when we come down to number 10, number 11 is the second day. And you can see for this floor, it takes us from the 2nd until the 9th of August to actually erect that. When I press save up here in the corner, what happens here is that the setup will automatically backward plan the delivery date, the storage date, the production date, and the drawing date, or at least the rough plan ones. Because the rough plan ones in my case here, when I want to erect in this date, is the latest I want to erect these elements. So Thomas knows that if I need to erect these elements on that date, not the latest, that exact day, sorry, then Thomas will know that the latest date he needs to produce this element, which is the first element, he should produce it at the very latest, the 26th of July. So this he will be able to see. And that's, for example, this element here. That was number 4, you can see. So this is the very first one that goes up, 28th of July. It's this one, of course. So basically, you see, we have the first floor, we have all the erection of the first floor, we have all the dates that we need, when the drawing should be finished as well, when it should be stored, when it should be delivered, when it should be produced, or the latest dates for these, at least for the rough planning here. So basically, that's what I want to do on this first run here. And I'll do both these buildings now. When I'm switching over to Thomas, I'll be working at the same time while he will show you a little bit more fun stuff like 3D stack and transport and cast planning, of course. So let me just give the screen to you, Thomas.
I will do that. Don't worry. Just so we don't have to do it at this. Yeah, okay, you did it.
I did it.
So my screen. Can you confirm that you are able to see my screen here?
Yes.
Fantastic. So we're looking at the project manager, right, Nikolai? Fantastic. As you can see now, I basically have the same project as Nikolai just did. I think, Nikolai, there is a question, so maybe you can look at it, or maybe finish planning. So we have some more elements to plan.
I'll finish the planning. I'll finish the planning to get some elements to you, Thomas, and then we'll take a look at the question.
All right. Thank you for the understanding, guys. We don't have anybody else in the webinar, and we try to plan 700 elements in 40 minutes. So I think you understand that we can answer the questions at the end. All right. So as Nikolai said, now we're going to look into some fun stuff, right? So as Nikolai showed you here, I can see the building now. But for me, as a cast planner, playing the role of Nikolai, the project manager, I got some initial dates for my project here. And I will show you 2 ways of working. The first way of working, of course, is through the project manager, right, per project. So I will go to my element IDs tab as Nikolai did. And here, the first thing I will do is change my personal layout. I will change it to the one that I say here, cast. So when I do that, you will see that my configuration here has the exact setup, the exact information of the project that I actually am going to use. And what are those information, right? For me, as a production planner, by knowing my beds and knowing my factory and my capacity in the factory, I'm actually care more a little bit on the dimensions of the elements. I care a little bit about what element types I have. For example, if I have a hollow core or a wall, right? So I can plan it on the corresponding division. And of course, what dates should I plan the things? So how do I do this? In our software, there is a very, very nice filtration system. So what I usually do here is there is, for example, I can see here, I can take floor 1, right? And I can take the whole building up first and see that I have 2 buildings here. I have building 1 and building 2. Now, 296 elements for building 1 and 296 elements for building 2. The next thing that I want to know is the different element types, as I said, right? So I take my element types. So when I open this one, I can see that I have a fair amount of hollow core, a fair amount of column, and a fair amount of walls and slabs and pre-stressed slabs. And the last thing, of course, as a production planner, the last thing I want to address is my plan production date. So I will take my plan production date, and for example, if I start planning from my sandwich walls, I can open my sandwich walls and see that I have different dates for sandwich walls. I have 60 of those that they have not gotten a day yet, but I have the ones that Nikolai just put a date for. So I see two dates, the 26th and the 27th. So very easily, I select my corresponding division, of course, StruSoft Factory 1 sandwich walls, right? Try to find the corresponding date. This is very easy. Either you can select it here from the calendar, or you can just move a little bit with your cursor. That is, of course, highly customizable. Again, we don't need to go into the details of how you can customize your view. We have made plenty of webinars about those things. So I'll select everything because for me right now, I don't really care how they look. I just want to plan as much as possible. So you see by pressing this tab here, the 26th and the 27th. For Nikolai, for the project manager, he doesn't care when he's going to get the elements. He just needs to know that they're going to produce by the 26th and the 27th. So I select my beds here on the 26th. I plan, I make my auto bed management, select to multi-custom, select the order, which can be the erection sequence in this case, which I don't care or I don't want to know in that sense because the software knows that already in the background. I say start, and what we do is immediately planning. Current plant dates are not fulfilling the required time. That means that some of those elements, of course, are about to plant maybe before or maybe a day after. That shouldn't affect though the actual erection date because I still might take some of those elements and put them back in time, meaning that here I can easily say no, so I don't affect my erection dates, my plant dates, and see the software has done its job. I have planned all of my sandwich elements in the 26th and the 27th. If I double click on my screen here, I go on my date and I can easily see on the detail view here, I can see how my beds look and how my bed planning is working at the moment. So I have added some big elements and small elements, and again they were planned according to the erection sequence. Of course, there are different possibilities here, and if I want to, for example, move things around or do some things from the detail view instead of using the calendar view, which is something that a lot of people that I know would like to do, then we have the possibility to select in the settings and select our beds P1, P2, and P3, and go up in the days in the view. So if I say save, then the software has a smart way separating the elements in that sense, right? You can see here that I get capacity, whole area fulfilled of my beds, elements worked, and everything is, again, enough to stress it out, that is in full 3D. You can see what side of the panel is placed to face down in the mold, what side of the panel is placed to face up in the mold. So everybody in the production factory, in my factory, can have a clear view of looking at those things at any possible moment. A lot of our customers, they are already using screens in the factory, being able to inform as best as possible the people working in the factory. So here, for example, if I wanted to do something, and for example, I wanted to move things around, or maybe I had already elements planned beforehand, I could easily take, my sandwich wall and move it to the next day, and so on and so on. The software will ask me again if I want to update the dates. I will say no, and I will move on, right? So going back to my calendar view, everything is getting optimized at the same time in live thing. So I moved one element down, one element went already down. If I go back to my model view, you will be able to see that in the status, as Nikolai did, maybe I should also hide the view of the cranes. Maybe that's a good idea, so I don't have to see them at all times. As you can see, the sandwich walls of my first floor, they have already changed status, and they are already status planned for production. Super. So in the same sense as I am in my element IDs, I will go into my columns. So I will take the dates that I have here and go to my columns and beams factory. Basically, I will select those that are supposed to be planned on the 21st. So I will find the 21st. Again, I don't want to make my life very difficult now. I will just add them here. Multicast. I will start, put them here. Done. Select those, put them down here, and I will say, sorry, it's the 29th of July. So I will go here and say basically done also here. So I suppose it looks pretty easy right now. I will take my holocaust. I know in my holocaust I have some of them that were supposed to go on the 29th. So I'll take those and put them on the 29th. That's select my division about the pre-stress elements. I know these are my beds on the 29th. I will select a few beds here. Start. In the end, I don't want to optimize my beds right now because I'm trying to hit as many elements as possible. I'll take those. I'll select those. Here you see I have some double T elements, which are of course 2.4 in diameter, and that will mean that I will have to select another type of bed. So these are supposed to be produced on the 30th, right? So I will put them here. Start again. We don't have to. I think I have selected an element that it's a little bit bigger than it should be. Again, we go here, select they are planned. They are not planned. Let's do it one more time. So they are placed in the bed, and of course, when you are going as fast as possible, I take my double T's, put them also in the 2.4. They're supposed to go on the 2.4, and I will also multicast them, start, and have my double T's also. In the same manner, of course, we are doing the slabs, and of course, the cast planning needs a little bit fine tuning, right? So it's not only about putting dates, it's a little bit also about doing specific things. You can see here, have my holocaust. Of course, I need to fill my bed. There is not planning half holocaust for this project and half holocaust for another project. And now that is the whole point of showing you here with the holocaust that I'm actually need to move on and put and create more space for this bed, but with elements coming from another project. And how am I going to do that? Of course, I can close here all of my filters, go back to my model view, and see that slowly my whole first floor is getting planned for production. However, Nikolai is working in the background. So when I go to my project manager, and I want to work on multiple projects, I can actually work in my whole database through the planning tab. And how I can easily do that is that by setting my planned production dates from when until the time that I want. Usually we say or we propose that we need to set up our factories, our divisions for 2 weeks ahead. So what I'm trying to do here, of course, Nikolai put some elements from the 27th, I suppose, 28th. So I can put 26th until the 19th of August. That's almost 3 weeks, right? And then my filtering says cast planning, unplanned elements, all of the projects, elements that are ready for production, meaning that their drawings are finished, and just press refresh. I know multiple people, cast planners, that they are sitting here and the only thing that they're basically doing is planning the projects for different things. So you see here, I have a project already, 326 elements. They have been planned to be produced. They have a planned production date throughout this. So while I'm talking and talking and talking, Nikolai in the background is setting multiple days for all of those elements. So what do? I take again element type, separate all of my element types for the whole project now, because now I don't care about floors, I don't care about buildings, right? And my plant production date. That's basically it. Go to my sandwich walls, and I can see I have multiple days. Those days shows me an indication, right? I don't have to produce those elements on the 11th. If I have the space, like I have the space now, I can basically select all, go all the way to my project from like top to bottom, right? Start from here, go all the way down to here. Hopefully everything is going to be marked, right? Theoretically, those should be also marked like they are, right? And if I set a date, for example, go to my sandwich walls and the corresponding dates and say, I will go to my sandwich walls, and what I'm doing, of course, theoretically, you will say, oh, it's risky, right? But no, it's not. I have available dates. I have 3 beds that I know take sandwich walls. The before is kind of a test bed, right? That's why I'm not using it. I select auto bed management, and this one, erection sequence, same thing, right? It's the same module. I say start, and I plan all of my sandwich walls for the whole building for the next 10 days. Done. And then I need to have faith in the software. I need to have trust in the software that is going to plan, of course, exactly the way that I told it to do it. And that's what happened. I planned my whole week. You can see here also the availability of the bed, how many meters are available, and of course the 68% of the bed comes also from the height, right? So I have 70% of the bed filled, meaning that I have also, you need to remember that I have set the height to 4 meters and the elements that I'm producing are 2.6 meters, right? So this is also calculated in the empty space in how much concrete a bed can take. Tolerance is preset, and you can work your way through the CAS planning from here. Again, this is my sandwich walls. I took all of them and I put them on my bed. So when I refresh the data here, maybe Nikolai is putting extra elements, extra sandwich walls. He has already put another, how do you call it? He has already put another 40, right? So I have to find here on my Monday and say, okay, I need at least those 20 to produce them beforehand. So I will just go and do this from here and say, those 2, I need to produce them at least before the 11th, right? So I will select my beds again, do the auto planning. And again, I know I repeat myself, but it is for the sake of understanding how easy it is to do that when you have the available tools for doing something like that. And the rest 20 elements are also try to plan them from here. Give me that, and I'll just find a little bit later. Maybe another project is coming at the same time, and we are good to go. Start the erection sequence. So assuming that, I go back to my project manager, go to my building 1, hide my cranes, and the one thing that I want to do, model the whole model. I will reload the model while Nikolai is also putting the dates. So all the things that we are doing at the same time are getting refreshed, and I get multiple more days here also in the project. Give it a little bit of time, a lot of information that needs to be created. Usually when we don't do so many changes and we're working alone on a project, we prefer to hit the button update. When we refresh a lot of things and change a lot of things in the project, then we hit the button reload. You can see now all of my sandwich walls, except for some that Nikolai most likely didn't have time to put this last date here, or maybe they are planned for after the 19th, right? Maybe if I take the dates to the 26th,
they are.
for example. Yeah, right. So
yeah,
for
I
example,
planned until start of September. I planned.
Exactly. And now actually the project looks actually pretty nice. I really like the colors, Nikolai, that we have set here, the blue and the yellow, right? And on top of all that, I will play another little role, meaning that, again, I love this role playing in our webinars. So I'll do a little bit of transfer planning. And again, it's I suppose some of you who have been in the previous webinars have seen something like that, but usually what I like to do is do the transfer planning per project. I can do it per multiple projects, but it doesn't really make any sense to plan in the same order, transports from multiple projects, because of course the elements are not going to go to the same construction site, right? So yeah, again, filtering options. I will filter my elements. I will just do my sandwich walls. I will take my sandwich walls, take them all together, and just do directly a transport, right? Different types of transportation. For those of you who don't know, we can have inloaders, you can have A-frames, and you can have, of course, tracks for your hollow cores, put your columns together, and multiple different things. I don't want to change my dates. I will go here. You will see now that the capacity, of course, on the tracks are a little bit low. This is, of course, because we are trying to plan. How do you call it? Sandwich walls on pretty big templates. Again, this is my own setup. You can move things around, but the most efficient way to do those things, when I create a transport, I create also stack planning. So if I come here and I refresh my data, you will see that the stacks that I have are created automatically. So what can I do? I can do some fine tuning, as Nikolai loves saying, on my transport directly from here, right? So I can take my wall element and I can take this wall, for example. I can right click on them and I can say match stack layer. By doing that, I make sure that the elements are placed directly on the correct side of the stack. I manage my center of gravity by looking at those lines. And when I go back to my transport, I just need to refresh the data, and the view is already refreshed also automatically here in the 3D planning. As I like to say, and this is something very important that I love saying, is that when we're using the 3D transport planning, we're not doing it for fun. We're not doing it to say that this looks good. Some people might think that the transport planning or going back and forth, for example, go to my columns here, select my columns, put them in a stack, right? I will just put them automatically in my vertical stack. I will put them like that, and I create a little stack here, right? I will explain why I created a little stack, and they will be like, okay, I have my columns here. I need to select them. I need to rotate them. Maybe I need to rotate them by 180 in the Z-axis, and then I need to rotate them also, in the Y-axis also. And now they are sitting okay. Because I've done that a couple of times, and I know that, right? And people will be like, this takes too much work. Yes, it takes more work than what people are usually doing to just create a spreadsheet. But by doing that, you are saving a lot of time for the actual people that they are using the money that you are spending. Meaning that if I spend half an hour to fix my transports properly, and everybody has the visibility of my transports in the whole company, that means that the person who is going to pick up those elements, right, he will pick them in the right order, he will put them exactly how they are looking, and you save him at least an hour from that. Plus, putting elements, multiple elements, or maximizing the track capacity, that gives you another great opportunity to save a lot of back and forth to the construction site.
Thomas, can I steal the screen from you again?
Yeah,
is there something more you want to show? Because you can continue planning, of course.
Yeah,
I planned
absolutely
a long time ago. I was finished with both buildings.
All
so
right.
I want to show you guys some stuff. But while I'm doing that, Thomas can continue his stack.
I will. but without speaking, right? So I should probably stop.
Yeah, so we don't speak at
All
the
right,
same time.
all right, guys. All right, Nikolai, the screen is all yours, I suppose.
Can you just see if you see my screen or not, Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Everything looks great.
Perfect. So now you can see, well, this sort of looks like what we saw on Thomas's screen before, and that's because everything gets updated all the way through. And it's exactly as Thomas said before. Why are some of them yellow? Is it because Nicola have planned something after the 19th of August, which Thomas actually looked forward to in his filter? And yes, of course it is. So Thomas didn't care about anything else than what he needed to do after the 19th of August. But to finish these buildings, of course, we can go in and check our floor 4 elements here. And if I go into my dates, you can actually see that I'm erecting elements all the way until the 2nd of September here. But going back to the model view, and what I wanted to show here, we just switch off the cranes again. And we can keep these nice colors if we want, but we can also change them back, because right now it doesn't matter so much for me what is planned for production and what is ready for production and so on. But you can see you get a very, very clear picture of it. We selected some specific colors, Thomas and I, for this purpose. For you guys using the software, you pick any color you want. But blue and yellow here are very big contrast to each other, of course. But I'll go back and say none to colors. And what it means is actually, it doesn't mean none. It means that we get the concrete color. So you can see the insulation color of the windows here and everything like that, of course. But basically what I wanted to show was our simulation again. Just like we looked at the simulation last time, I looked at the erection sequence. But now I'm looking at the erection date, because I'm planning on erecting both these buildings at the same time with 2 different cranes, 2 different erection crews. So both could actually be erected on the same day. So we'll do like this, don't show the elements, and I'll just click play like I did before. So now I've set it to run very fast because we have a lot of elements here on the screen, and if it needs to run through the whole thing, you can see switches between building 1 and building 2. And the reason for that is, of course, that it's just taking the elements from building 1 on the 10th of August right now, then the elements from building 2 on the 10th of August, then on the 11th, then on the 12th, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't show the time of day we're actually erecting these. It shows the day we're erecting them, because I only did the rough planning here, which is the actual date. But we can see both buildings being set up here, starting from the 2nd of August when we actually started. We're currently at the 24th of August, and we have roughly 3 floors on each building here. We're working on to the 4th floor, the 26th, 27th, jumping to the 30th if you're quick here, meaning we don't want to work in the weekend here in this case as well. And now finishing the 1st of September and the 2nd of September for the last few balcony slabs here. So basically, that is my 2 buildings in this project here. But there is another thing, of course, that we promised you guys for the webinar here for the planning, is we promised you multiple projects as well. So basically, this is not multiple projects. This is just one project with 2 buildings in it. So let me go in and open another project. So I have another project that I called WebJune 002, just so it's easy for me to find for you guys. And this is a panel project with cast on site slabs. So I'm only going to need to actually plan the panels themselves. And this is not so much fine detail as the other model, but it doesn't matter when you're doing this rough planning. You do it whenever you want, of course. So basically, what I'm going to do now is something very, very boring. I'm going to do the exact same thing that we did before. We want to do erection planning and just selecting the elements that we want to erect in the order we want to erect them. Here we go. Now we add the elements, but now instead of going from one floor to another floor, I'm just taking all of the floors at once. So this project here is only the panels, but it's giving you an idea of how fast can we actually plan the erection sequencing as well as the erection dates. On a project and this size here. We're already at 4th floor. That means I'm almost done just while talking, of course. So it's probably even a little bit faster than I expected myself here. Add elements there, Control A, because I want to select them all. I want to set my erection division and apply. So basically, if I go into my model here, these are my cast on site slabs. I'm a precaster, I don't really care about those. We could actually put erection sequence on these to simulate it as well if we wanted, but I didn't do it in this case. And now I can simulate my sequence. And exactly the same thing as before. So this is just another project. And of course, this is a much simpler project at this point of time, but now we have the rough planning in order here. We go to our building 1, we go to a floor 1, our walls. So now I don't want to plan these slabs here. So basically what I can do instead is I can take these and do the exact same thing as I actually did before. Calculate erection dates. And here I want to start from the 3rd of September. Oh, I clicked the webcam of the GoToWebinar, so maybe you can't see my screen right now, but hopefully you'll see it in a few seconds. So you should be able to see my screen again now here. So that's the 1st floor. The 2nd floor, I simply just double click what I want while I'm actually in here. Do the exact same thing. Planning, calculate erection dates. In this case, I want to start it the Friday after. And I'm not so much into if it's the exact day afterwards, as long as it's after, of course, here. I'm getting the dates on. And basically, I just have 2 floors left. And after that, we'll soon be ready to jump over to Thomas again, of course.
I'm already getting the days here in the resource manager. So I'm already planning.
Already.
So yeah, I have the ones that are, I suppose, the 1st floor, right? 25th and 27th. I was just preparing the mobile app also in the background, right? So.
Oh, perfect. But this is the whole point, is that you have people in your companies, and the smaller companies, of course, you guys maybe have one guy that is planning, but you still have different project managers, different people that are managing the production. For those guys of you who have larger companies, multiple projects at the same time, multiple factories, well, it works completely the same way. You can see if you're sitting alone and doing all this, it's quite quick for you to just get it done, and then you just continue with whatever else you'd be doing. Or if you're working together, like Thomas and I are doing now, immediately you will get these updated elements and these other projects and so on. So basically now what we did is I planned everything. I do have element marks on my in situ slabs here. The reason why I have element marks is simply because I want to actually have them inside the database, so I know that it'll be set up. But otherwise, other than that, I don't care too much. So you can see we have some status colors. Thomas have not started planning this yet, but I will give the word.
I have done some of those. You can reload and get the correct.
Let's just update.
I think so.
You have? You're too fast for me, Thomas.
I hope so. I don't know. It seems like I'm doing.
Oh yeah.
Now. Yeah, the 1st floor was done. All right. If you do one more update, then you will see that everything is done now.
Oh yeah.
I hope so. I mean,
update here.
Most of it, I suppose. I don't know why. how much?
Yeah, exactly. We
Okay,
have
I made the last
only
floor.
the last floor. This is probably again the same. Thomas, he only wants to plan ahead for 3 weeks, and I said this
Yeah,
to do
exactly.
4
I'm
weeks.
already in the 16th of September, and you still give me elements, right? So
I'm still giving you elements, exactly. So you have enough to do at least for
the next 3
for a
months.
month. Yeah, exactly.
No vacation for us.
No vacation.
No vacation for the factory people. Yeah.
You just need to work. Yeah, so that's great. And Thomas only planned 3 weeks ahead, so it's exactly the same as the other project. He doesn't care about what happens after a certain point here. So of course, if we look at some of these elements that have these erection dates, you can see when I go through the whole project with the elements, we go to the 24th. So here, Thomas, he stopped looking forward simply. Great, but I think that I did this other project. You already planned it in the background, Thomas. So maybe we should switch the screen back to you.
I think that is a good idea. Give me 1 second to make sure that my phone works, the app is open, and everything looks fine. Yeah, I suppose everything looks good. So I'll put back in my calendar. Let's change the screen now. I'll take the screen myself.
Yeah.
Make presenter. So my screen. I hope we are seeing the same screen now. So here you're in the
project manager.
Yeah, so you're in the project manager here. You can see this on the side. It's my AnyDesk app, which shows you directly what happens on my phone, live situation, right? And here you can see that I have planned some elements on those weeks. I will move a little bit forward so you can see also the elements that I planned in August, right? So when I do that, you see I have some elements from the project called WebJune 001, and I have some elements from the project called WebJune 002, like these ones. Here you see the project, also the new project that Nikolai just made. And if I also, I made the changes in the resource manager, but see, I haven't updated my colors here also, right? So it's, remember to, usually those things, are coming back and forth. Okay, that's, let me take a reload. I don't know why the project looks like that, but anyway, that's not my concern at the moment. Have we moved some walls, Nikolai, or did I move some walls? Don't know what is happening here. But anyways, the whole point is that you can see the same elements that I have planned the walls here. You can see the same elements also here. Either they're coming from project WebJune 1 or for project WebJune 2. We move a little bit forward, and you see all the different things. Let me do a refresh here. Now this is, suppose we have to go. Okay, it's a little bit weird. What happened to my model? Okay, so we need to close the project manager and then open it again. I hope that my server configuration.
You're stressing out your computer, Thomas.
I have an old computer, so I should probably not ask for something in our webinar, so it's okay, but there is no problem. Even if these things happen, the data never gets away, right? So we try to open our project manager again. The mobile app is on the background anyways, so we will be back on track. No second now. We have still 10 minutes here to look at the element control and the different colors on the CAS planning module, and I think we will be absolutely fine. Okay, so we got our model back. We have our status, as Nikolai said, and I can see I have some elements here from different projects. WebGen 1. Oh, we are on the sandwich wall, so that makes sense. As you say, I'm stressing my computer out pretty much a lot. Here we are. All right, so we are here, and after a small little break for all of you, so you could sip a little bit of coffee, you know that every bed has its elements, right? So what we try to do here is, you see here, maybe you cannot see it so good, so I'll probably close this tab. You see here we have the controls, right? So before we produce the elements, we have the standard pre-production control, and after we produce, we will have the production control. What happens is that color is also applied to that little box here. So a production planner can always know what is the status of the elements in the on the cast planning. So if I right click on this, or right click on multiple maybe, I can just print out my cast label, webcast, print it out, and bring up my mobile phone again. I'll try to put this on the side. Correct. And here we get our normal cast report. This is something that a lot of you might use in a normal time through multiple and different spreadsheets. But here, the only thing you have to do is press on the QR code. You can see the mobile phone, select the code and all the elements for this cast, for this ID, for this bed right here. I can also be a little bit more and take also the elements from the second cast of the day. So I have a little bit of everything here, right? So every element, again, I can select my whole bed. I can select per element, multiple elements, but when I do element control, I have to remember that I have to do it personally for every single element. I select the information button, and then again, you can see here I'm using my phone, element control, standard pre-production control. You can see here, select, and see my simple checks. Is the formwork done? Do I have the reinforcement account for? I'll say my single check, go to my measure check, and see the formwork, the width, and the height. Save it. I'll do that. And what I'm going to do as an extra step, I'll go all the way to the right and inspect the element, meaning that I will take some pictures of the mold, so nobody can, basically, you can see my screen here, nobody can say anything about our work in the factory because we're proud of it. So I will say save. I'll say save the picture, go backwards, select my status and save. So immediately when I do that, backwards, refresh my, and now this is what we call status 40, right? Status 40 will automatically mean that my element has passed the control, and if you see here, is planned and approved. However, the job is not done. We need to produce those elements. You see the status here is 40, and I suppose if I stop, if I just also update my model, theoretically, the color here will be also orange. Now I can select the whole bed for the sake of the webinar, so I can let you all go enjoy your Tuesday. Produced, all the elements are produced, refresh my data here, the whole box changed the color to orange because that's what I have set to be the background of the box. So I always keep an eye on the status, right? And my elements placed on that cast are also changed to orange. So what we try to show you now, it's with multiple projects, with multiple things, the connectivity between the different departments. Again, let me open my mobile, set this also, and set this also to produced, set it, right? Element controls, and one last thing, of course, is that I need to set those elements in storage. So I can unselect those, go to my storage location, press this, button here, and select one of my storage location 5, for example. This is for my walls. They are all placed in storage, and in the same manner, I do the same for those. Set them to another storage location. I will take those away and select one of these storage locations. Because you need to remember here, you can have a big barcode scan. So instead of assign them to the storage location, you can just go scan the location code, and the location code will automatically assign them to the corresponding location. I think we are a little bit dead in time, so I have shown those things before in different webinars, so I don't think it is so important. It was just so for the presentation of the flow of the webinar. We lost a couple of minutes with refreshing my project, but I think more or less that's what I want to show you. Of course, the process continues from status 70. We go to the transport statuses, and so on until, of course, we have a status 2 delivered after our truck driver has delivered the elements and they are erected. So I think that was for today's webinar. As long as Nikolai agrees with me, maybe Nikolai has to show
maybe
something.
And you can see my webcam all the time, so you can see me very concentrated here. I've just been sitting and answering all you guys' questions on the text.
Oh yeah.
But we can take a couple of live anyways.
Yeah.
We have about 4 minutes left.
Oh, there are whoa, there are many.
There's a lot of questions, but I think I answered them all through text. One question is that we can take. We won't show it here on the webinar, but we can definitely answer this. Is what about variable time in the curing, for example, for slabs and so on, or for panels? It takes more than 1 day to cure or more than 1 day to produce. Well, basically we have, or less than 1 day. It might also be you can produce 2 times in 1 day. We have what is called shifts inside Impact. We also have what is called, multi-day planning, when something takes maybe 2, maybe 3 days as well. I think we do have webinars on that also, but we will be very happy to show you guys.
Yeah.
And another question is, how early are you able to plan?
Depends on the model or the elements that you are having. I suppose I can take this one. It depends on how far away you are with your model, right? So here in Impact, we work with a full precast element. So as long as we have a model, not finished, you don't have to be finished. The drawing doesn't even have to be, first version yet, right? It just needs to be a rough geometry at least. Or we have the possibility to import rough geometries directly from a spreadsheet. So if you have a tender project, or not a tender project so much, but if you have a project that has been realized in your system and is going to be made, then you can bring in some basic quantities with the rough geometries through Excel and start rough planning those, so you can fill in your workload capacity. And now that we talk about workload capacity, you can also see automatically here on my divisions, for example, until the 23rd of September, I can show you a little bit of chart here, how I have filled my database and how many elements I have. You can see here the label. So here is basically after here where me and Nikolai started to do. These are the elements that I just, have fine planned, and these are the elements that they are rough planned through the software. As you see, I put a lot of elements, or at least I try to put a lot of elements in the dates. Of course, there are a few columns, beams, and some slabs that I didn't, and that's why we have those 3 for weeks where there are not so many fine plant elements.
You can see that there, you need to do them. I think it's worthwhile to mention also, it's a little bit out of the scope of this webinar, but you can actually start planning with the only thing is I need to make 400 panels. We have a different piece of software for that is connected with Impact as well, called Quantities. So it's a little bit outside the scope of this webinar here, but we'll be very happy to show. And we actually have a webinar in the autumn planned for this tender quantities as well, where we'll be showing how to actually plan years ahead.
Exactly.
No models, just rough amounts. How do you plan your capacity for next year in 5 minutes? for
Tensor quantities combines this view graph, which is your rough and fine plant elements, which needs to be at least a rough geometry, either from Excel, from TechLab, from Impact Design, it doesn't matter, right? It combines this workload coming from the real project to your tender projects. We can have the possibility to put tender projects and see the capacity roughly far ahead, as Nikolai said, for a couple of years ahead, and realize it according to the possibility of getting the project also, right? But again, this is a webinar coming right after the summer, as far as we remember. I think we will of course send you an invite, but now it's time for some summer vacation here in Scandinavia. So July, we are not going to hold the webinar for that. Yeah.
We take a summer holiday here. We also need some time off once in a while.
Yeah,
now
absolutely.
We planned all the way to middle of September, so we can take some time off, Thomas and I now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think that we do have a few more questions.
There are a lot of questions
on the text, but we spent our time. It's 3 o'clock now. Everything is answered. We'll be following up with all of you guys after the webinar as well. You'll all get the recording to rewatch, or for those who could not be here, for you guys to, of course, watch it, those guys who cannot be here live. And otherwise, of course, we're always here for the questions. And if we need to detail something more out or show you guys directly, we'll be very happy to. But I think that's it for the webinar today, isn't it, Thomas?
At least that is from me. And thank you, Nikolai, for hosting the webinar, and thank you for inviting me to do some fine planning. I told you I haven't prepared anything, so I'll just follow your lead. And I think you saw that in the webinar. So, but
that's the whole point of the webinar here, is that you have some project managers giving some dates, planning some stuff, and then you have the guy planning out the factory. He will just see what is popping out. Of course, you can still talk with each other to plan it, so it needs to be done. But what we were showing you guys was the time spent in the software, which is very minimal. And that's the whole point. It should be easy, and it's managing all of your element. We did 700 elements here. Thomas planned ahead for 3 weeks, starting from the beginning of August. Maybe you even planned ahead for more than that, because
until
the project as well.
20th of September, I suppose, for a month and a half. Yeah. Exactly. But I think that's the output that you want to see. That's where you want to reach. That's what top management, top level detail you want to see. This is why we're doing everything, I suppose. Getting your workload and seeing how much you produced in the last couple of months, and the last year, the last day, the last 5 years. So the more information in the database, the better the output from the database. And that's it.
Great. Yeah, but I think we have all the questions done. So we'll just see you guys on the next webinar. Talk to you soon. Have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
See you guys. Bye-bye.